Hey guys, in this video we're going to have a look at buttonholes and how to do them on the sewing machine. But we're going to start by looking at what makes a good buttonhole and what makes a bad buttonhole. So I've got some samples here that I've done. These first two aren't great. This last one, I finally got it right. The reason that these first two aren't great is the zigzag of the buttonhole is too far apart. This first one here doesn't have a nice gap running down the center of it for me to be able to open it up. This one's got the gap, which is great. It's just that the zigzag is a little too far apart. This one here is also not right because we've got this gap up here in the corner where there's no stitching. Our last one here, that's perfect. We've got a nice gap down the middle. It's not too far apart. We've got consistent stitching all the way around. There's no gaps anywhere in that rectangle shape. And our zigzag is nice and close together to give it a sealed edge. So that's what we're looking for our perfect buttonhole, and it will probably take you a few times to be able to get that right. If you're a Year 10 student, you'll find the instruction sheet for creating a buttonhole is in your workbook. It's this workbook here. So that's on page 19, and you can just follow those instructions through step by step. If you're not in Year 10, you can ask your teacher for a handout of this. Okay, so following through here, step 1, you'll need a presser foot number 3. So I've already put that on my sewing machine. It's got a number 3 engraved into the presser foot. Second step is we're going to change our stitch length to 0.75. That's between half and 1. Now all of our sewing machines respond differently to stitch lengths, just slightly. They're all a bit different. I've actually set mine at 0.5 because it gives a better finish. You'll be able to figure it out once you've done a few trials. Step 3, I'm going to mark 2 dots on the fabric to show the position and length of the buttonhole. The length should be 2 millimeters more than the button diameter. So I've got my piece of fabric here that I'm going to do my test onto. We should always have some sort of iron-on fusing just to reinforce and help stabilize the fabric in behind a buttonhole. So this is my button that I've chosen to use here. I'm going to place it down onto my fabric, and I'm just going to use a fiber tip pen, and I'm going to mark a dot either side of my button there just so I can get that diameter, but I'm going to make it 2 millimeters bigger. So that's my 2 dot marks there. That's going to be the length of my buttonhole. So I'm now ready to sew my buttonhole, but just so we're all aware, I'm just going to move this to show you what dial I'm going to be using. This is the buttonhole dial here. Okay, it goes from 0 around to 6. It only moves clockwise. We want to start on step 1. When you move it, it adjusts other settings on the machine as well for you. Okay, so coming back down here, I've got my instructions over the back here. I've got my piece of fabric with my 2 dots on it, and I'm just going to follow through these instructions, which you can use when you do it as well. Okay, so step 4, turn the buttonhole dial to step 1. I've already done that. Lower the needle onto your first marker and stitch forward until you get to the second marker. So when we're talking about markers, we're talking about these dots. Okay, so first one, second one. So first step is to lower the needle. So I'm going to use my hand wheel to do that. Lower it onto the first dot. Okay, I can put my presser foot down, and then I'm going to stitch forward until I get to the second marker. So I want to stop on that dot. Okay, so I've done that. In between every step that you do, you'll notice in the book it says raise the needle. The reason for that is if you move the buttonhole dial and the needle's down through your fabric, you might break the needle because it will change the needle position. So in between every step, raise the needle. Okay, now we're up to step 5 of the instructions. Turn the dial to step 2. Already done that. The machine will stitch a reverse straight stitch. Stop when you arrive back at marker 1. Okay, so I'm back at marker 1. Now I'm going to raise my needle again, and I'm up to step 6. Turn the dial to step 3. There we go. Count to 5 as the machine stitches from side to side in the same spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Raise the needle. Step 7 is to turn the dial to step 4. Stitch forward to the second marker, making sure there is a separation down the center of your buttonhole. So this is going to be the same as doing the zigzag on this side here, but we want to have a gap in between those two lines of zigzag. Okay, raise the needle, and I'm over the page with my instructions. Turn the dial to step 5. Count to 5 as the machine stitches from side to side in the same spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Raise the needle. Turn the dial to step 6. Count to 5 as the machine stitches straight in reverse. These stitches will stop your buttonhole from coming undone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Raise the needle and remove the fabric. Okay, so that looks perfect. That's exactly how I want it. I'm just going to cut off these threads here nice and close to the buttonhole on the front and the back. And then to open up the buttonhole so that you can test it and put your button through it, we're going to use an unpicker. Best way to do this is stab your unpicker in one end, fold it in half, bring your unpicker out, and just rip it through. The reason we don't just put it in and shove it all the way along is you might rip it out the other end here. Flip it around, and now we do the same to the other end. And you can see that's opened up nicely. You might just need to tidy up some of these little loose bits of yarn that will come out, but that there is our buttonhole, and we'll just check that our button can fit through there nicely. You want it to be a little bit snug, but not too tight. And there you go.